A new faction rally has just begun, giving you the chance to earn more loot in Destiny 2. But which factions should you align with, and which faction should you spend the most time leveling up? That's what this video aims to help answer. What is up, guys? Rick Kakas here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the 3 new prize weapons for the February 2018 faction rally to help you guys decide which factions to align with and again which faction to level up the most to hopefully help them claim the victory. Now, although these weapons are not available within the game just yet, they are available within the Destiny database, and therefore we're going to take a look at all of the stats and perks of these weapons and compare them. And considering the weapon system is pretty simplistic, it should be very easy to speculate on these weapons' position. So let's get started here with Dead Orbit. The weapon awarded if Dead Orbit is victorious is the Eternal Slumber Legendary Kinetic Pulse Rifle. Now, taking a look at the stats here, this is already a very unique weapon. It has a rounds per minute of 360 and a matching impact of 29. This means that this is the first kinetic version of this pulse rifle archetype. Most notably, the inaugural address Raid Pulse Rifle and Energy Pulse Rifle is this same archetype, but again, there are no other kinetic versions. So if you like the inaugural address, you like using that Pulse Rifle, but you want something similar to that in the kinetic slot, this is the closest that you'll be able to get. Comparing it to the inaugural address, they are very similar stats-wise. The Eternal Slumber actually has better stability, but the inaugural address may have a better recoil pattern. Other than that, the stats are again remarkably similar. So let's take a look at this weapon's perks. Firstly, we have Adaptive Frame as the intrinsic perk. Next, we have 3 different optics, and then we have Steady Rounds. This is going to improve the already very good stability and could make this weapon extremely accurate. After that, Alloy Magazine, and lastly, Under Pressure. Improved stability and accuracy as the magazine gets lower. Generally, Under Pressure is okay at best for a perk, so you're probably looking for definitely better options out there. However, Under Pressure combined with Steady Rounds, combined with a pretty darn good native stability stat, makes this weapon a consideration for pulse rifle lovers. And remember that pulse rifles are getting an upcoming buff with the next sandbox update. This weapon does, however, seem more tuned for PvP than anything else. None of its perks seem particularly tuned for PvE play, and the pulse rifle buff will have to be significant to see pulse rifles get more PvE play. Now, moving on from there, let's take a look at New Monarchy's prize weapon. It's another pulse rifle, the Legal Action 2 Legendary Kinetic Pulse Rifle. Taking a look at the stats here, this is a heavy-hitting pulse rifle, belonging to the highest damage pulse rifle category, similar to other things like the Prophecy pulse rifle from the Curse of Osiris and the Disrespectful Stare. And compared to those other weapons, the Legal Action 2 isn't really looking so good. Compared specifically to the Machina Die 4, the Prophecy weapon, that weapon has better range, better stability, better magazine size, and better reload speed. It beats it basically everywhere for every important stat. So, can the Legal Action make up for it in its perks? Well, actually, yes it can. Now, firstly, we have High Impact Frame as an intrinsic perk. Unfortunately, every weapon of this archetype is going to have that. It means nothing. Next, we have 3 different sight options. And then we have 2 very interesting choices. Firstly, high caliber rounds, making you flinch opponents more when you shoot them. Certainly a very powerful perk for PvP especially, but in PvE it also has utility. Next, we have accurized rounds, increasing the range. This weapon already has pretty fantastic range, you're probably not going to need it. And lastly, we have Rampage. Kills with this weapon temporarily grant increased damage, stacks up to 3 times. Now this is actually the first high-impact pulse rifle that features Rampage. We already know that Rampage is a fantastic perk, especially for PvE, being able to kill an enemy with an extremely powerful burst, especially from this type of pulse rifle, and then get a damage bonus, kill another enemy, get another damage bonus. This thing is going to have a pretty significant damage output, and even in PvP, the fact that you can potentially lower the bursts you need to kill an enemy by triggering Rampage, that is incredibly interesting and could make this thing at least a niche weapon in PvP. But essentially, what you're seeing here with the legal action is a weapon that right now doesn't belong to a very competitive damage archetype or even a weapon category, but it belongs to a weapon category that is getting a buff soon, and it has two of the best perks in Destiny 2, period. So that is a pretty strong case for picking New Monarchy. However, we do have one more potential choice, and that lies with Future War Cult. The prize weapon featured here is the Dream Legendary Kinetic Scout Rifle. Taking a look at the stats here, this belongs to the highest damaging Scout Rifle archetype. You're going to find a lot of this archetype within the kinetic slot. You have stuff like the Haunted Earth, Dead Orbit Scout Rifle, the Guiding Sight, Iron Banner Scout Rifle, the Does Not Compute Crucible Scout Rifle. There is a lot of competition within this archetype, so the Dream is going to have to do something pretty substantial to stand out. Does it? Well, stats-wise, not at all. There is some advantages, like it has 2 points more of stability than the Haunted Earth, but then the Guiding Sight has 1 point more than the Dream. It has a slightly better range than some of the other weapons, but the range is high enough that it's only a couple points ahead. It doesn't have any stats that significantly stand out compared to the competition. Again, there's some places it beats some weapons, but then other weapons beat the Dream. Like, it just goes back and forth. Nothing is significant. And that's mostly the fault of Bungie putting almost identical stats on every weapon within a certain archetype because they're so scared to experiment and have new and interesting weapons. That's a whole different topic about what Bungie needs to do to improve Destiny 2, but that's kind of why we're seeing this result. And so therefore, because it doesn't stand out stats-wise in any noticeable area, it's gonna have to bring the perks. Does it? Well, again, not really. We have high impact frame, that happens all the time. We have 3 different sight options. Then we have extended mag, which is okay. We then have armor piercing rounds, which is again okay. And lastly, we have snapshot sights, faster time to aim down sights. Snapshot sights is a decent perk, especially with a high impact weapon. You want to get the first shot off. That's undoubtedly a decent perk. But there are better perks, and it's not like it has snapshot sights and another bunch of really fantastic perks. Snapshot sights is the highlight here, and it's still a pretty mediocre highlight. And so therefore, the Dream is not really looking like a super fantastic weapon. If you really enjoy this archetype of scout rifle, you may want to go for it and add this to your collection, but for most people, one of the 2 other pulse rifles are the better option. Speaking of, with all these weapons considered, what is my opinion on the best prize weapon for this February faction rally? Well, I've got to say, it's the Legal Action 2 for New Monarchy. That weapon just has phenomenal perks, like high caliber rounds and Rampage, 2 unbelievable perks that it comes with at the same time. You can be using both of them at the exact same time. And so therefore, I think it is the clear winner. However, I think something should definitely be said of the Eternal Slumber. It doesn't have anything special in terms of perks, really, but it does have decent perks, and overall it has pretty darn good stats. And the fact that it's such a unique weapon, being the only one of its archetype as a kinetic weapon, that is definitely a plus in its category. So I could see you making an argument for that Dead Orbit prize weapon. But again, overall, I think the Legal Action is the best option. Which is a little unfortunate. Future War Cult hasn't won a faction rally yet, and if Bungie's given it weapons like the Dream, it never will. So that's it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.